We at Transparency International UK are seriously concerned about developments in Gibraltar. We've been following the current Commission of Inquiry into the circumstances surrounding the early retirement of former Police Commissioner Ian McGrail for some time. There's been some excellent reporting from Haroon Sadiq, the Guardian's legal correspondent, on this as well. Now, the Commission was established back in 2022 and has been undertaking a number of preliminary hearings to gather the facts around the circumstances surrounding Ian McGrail's early retirement, which he claims was forced upon him after he sought to execute a search warrant into an associate of the current Chief Minister, Fabian Picardo. Fabian Picardo has denied any allegations of wrongdoing. Now, the commission was set up by the governor of Gibraltar to establish the facts and to make sure that there was a full and thorough independent inquiry into what happened, which involves establishing the facts surrounding serious allegations of corruption which reached the highest levels of government in Gibraltar. This has been going on for 2 years now. And so it's slightly out of the blue that the government has decided to bring forward emergency legislation that would change the statutory footing of the current inquiry. Now, the government of Gibraltar has said it's brought forward this law in order to modernise legislation for inquiries and to base it on the existing framework in the UK. Now, we think that that proposition doesn't stand up to closer scrutiny. The Inquiries Act in the UK has been around for over 2 decades now, which then begs the question, why is this legislation being brought forward now? Why has it been brought forward using emergency legislation? And why does it have different transitional provisions in it than the original Act, which would automatically convert any existing inquiry to one under the new legislative footing, which gives the government the power to terminate or suspend the inquiry at any time? Given the Chief Minister is one of the key subjects of the inquiry, that poses a serious conflict of interest, and it raises serious questions around both the timing of this new bill, how it's being brought before Parliament with very little scrutiny, and what the motivations are for it doing so. We just want to make sure that due process is followed, that the Commission is able to establish the facts and publish its findings, that anybody found guilty of criminal wrongdoing is brought before the courts, and that the truth here is out.
Is Transparency International objecting to the bill itself and the powers contained therein, which the Gibraltar government say are practically a carbon copy of the UK legislation? Or are you objecting in particular to the timing of this so close to the start of the inquiry proper? Because we've had preliminary hearings, but the main hearings are set to start soon.
Yeah. So as you know, the Commission's been going for 2 years now. It's coming to a crucial period in its proceedings. And so it seems bizarre that the government is bringing forward legislation to modernise the law in this area now, when we're reaching such a critical juncture in the inquiry, which is looking at the activities of the Chief Minister and his associates. So not only is the timing concerning, but also there's a key difference in this bill from the UK law, which would automatically turn the existing inquiry and transfer into this new statutory footing, which would give the government power to suspend or terminate the inquiry, which it doesn't have under the existing legislation, which, although goes back to the 1800s, still works well enough. And the Commission of Inquiry has been following in its policies the same sort of rules and procedures as the Inquiries Act. So that, the government's argument just doesn't stack up. And the timing of it raises serious concerns around an attempt to politically interfere with what should be an independent inquiry.
Do you take this bill and the timing of it to be a threat to the independence of the inquiry?
The timing of it and the contents of the bill raise serious questions about an attempt to interfere in the independence of the inquiry. We're all for modernising legislation, but in order to do that, it should have the normal period of time for scrutiny in Parliament, adequate consultation, which it doesn't seem to have had. We understand the chair of the current inquiry was not consulted on this bill, and it's been rushed through in a tearing hurry. These facts taken together raise serious questions about due process and whether the bill is being rushed through in an attempt to interfere in the independence of the inquiry, and that is unacceptable.
And more generally, what picture do you have of Gibraltar looking at it from Transparency International in Bristol?
So Transparency International UK looks at both corruption domestically and the flow of dirty money through its economy and its wider financial empire, which includes Gibraltar as a British overseas territory. Too many times has Gibraltar turned up in money laundering cases connected to high levels of corruption, and these concerns around domestic corruption as well are highly concerning. So what we're keen to do is make sure that due process is followed, that territories like the overseas territories like Gibraltar follow the rule of law, adopt measures of good governance, and do not let a lowering of standards that would harm the reputation of it as a British overseas territory and as a rule of law jurisdiction.
Just Steve, as a matter of fact, I think it's fair to point out that the inquiry is not into the Chief Minister's behaviour. He is a core participant in it, but it's into the circumstances surrounding.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, but there are allegations of him and his interference in that, I understand, which he is challenged.
The actual inquiry is set up to look at the circumstances surrounding Mr. McGrail's retirement, including the role of the Chief Minister there.
Including the role of the Chief Minister, yeah. Which, given his role as a core participant, that I think that's where and the alleged role of him in the early retirement of the former Chief Commissioner, there's quite an obvious conflict of interest between his role in bringing forward this new legislation and him being subject to the current inquiry and its lines of questioning.